All right. All right. All right. Good morning and happy Friday, everybody. Happy Friday. What a week. What a week. And I'm going to apologize right out the gate because I know I'm going to get grief for it. I do not have the bow tie today. The American flag bow tie had an accident after last week's show. And so we're going to have to retire that one and start a new one. And of course, as I start that, I'm already having camera issues. So just stay with me here and this thing will reset and jump back on. But that being said, it is Friday. I want to remind everybody that May is Heroes Month here at Heroes Media Group. So it's been a busy week this week. We've had obviously Military Appreciation Month all month. This week was National Nurses Week, Teachers Week, and I believe it was International Firefighters Week as well. Now, some of you are thinking, who is that handsome devil on the screen with me? Let me tell you a little bit about this gentleman. I met this gentleman last year before. Might have been a little bit already. Mr. Ryan Williams Sr. I'm going to bring him on right now. Ryan, are you there, brother? How are you?
Yes, sir. Happy Friday to you as well. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I appreciate you jumping on with me today. Ryan is part of the HMG family. He has a show, Other Side of the Firewall, that we will get into here in a little bit. And we'll get to know Ryan here a little bit more as the show goes on. Met Ryan at a suit-up event.
It was
in Tampa, I believe. Was it Tampa?
Yes, sir. It was right by the stadium.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. So, and we just kind of hit it off. We chatted, we hit it off, and Ryan's been part of the network now for over a year, and you've heard me talk about his show. But like I said, before we get into all of that, let's talk a little bit about Military Appreciation Month, all of May. You get two veterans right here, I call it Heroes Month, or we call it Heroes Month here at HMG, is because it's kind of like they threw everybody in one month. You know what I mean? It's like we couldn't just spread it out a little bit, but here at HMG we celebrate every month, every week our community heroes. But it is Military Appreciation Month, so to all of our brothers and sisters out there, we thank you. This week, National Nurses Week. So a shout out to all of the nurses out there in the healthcare field and what you do. Love it. Got to give a shout out to my wife, who's been, she was a bedside nurse for many years. She's a nurse practitioner now.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And she stays busy and just so proud of her. And then Teachers Week is also this week.
It is. Yeah. We sent a gift with my youngest.
Yeah. Oh, right on. Yeah. And like Teachers Week, it was, I got family members. I was a high school teacher or sub for a few years.
Okay.
And I did that so I could kind of understand where teachers are coming from. And it's probably one of the most underrated, unappreciative professions that are out there. And you see kind of the difference, like, oh, teachers are teaching X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. I get it. If you don't like it, homeschool. But and if you can't, then just but there are good teachers. There's a lot of great teachers out there. I do a shout out to my sister-in-law Bethany up in Wisconsin. Teaches, I think, 4th grade. And then I got plenty of teachers. All my teacher friends out in Arizona. Shout out to y'all there. Now, next week is Police Week. Start of Police Week. So law enforcement, and I believe they usually have like a police week down in the DC area event that goes on for quite a while. But
like a parade and things of that nature.
Yeah, like like a remembrance for the fallen officers. They do that for a day. I haven't been yet. I have not. That's the one event that I would like to attend that I have not been able to just get my calendar around. But I enough law enforcement people in my family. I got my brother in law enforcement. I got a couple cousins that are in law enforcement. A lot of friends that I've served with and whatnot. So, yeah, awesome stuff. What do we have? We already got a comment here. Rich, shout out to my better half, 8th grade teacher. Nice. The Mrs. 832, appreciate that, Rich. Rich
Oh
from
yeah, definitely.
Misfit Nation podcast, also a member of HMG. Good stuff. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. I think all of these, and this is why I like to call it Heroes Month, Ryan, is because we've hashtag for the last 9 years now community heroes, and when you think about it, that's what we define our community heroes. Now, a hero could be anybody. Let's be frank on that, but nurses, the medical professionals, teachers, educators, there's a clergy piece, and then you have your firefighters, your first responders, and the law enforcement. And then, of course, obviously our military veterans and stuff as well. So this is one of my favorite months of the year because we get to celebrate our community heroes and
Yeah,
whatnot.
definitely.
So,
It's
David, good
also
morning to you.
mental health month as well. So
Oh, thank you for that.
yeah.
Yeah, mental health. Yeah. So, why? There's 12 months in the year.
I think that's to go along with the first responders and the military. I think it kind of just syncs up well.
That I didn't even think about that. That's such a great point, Ryan. That's such a great point. Mental health, and let's so here is part of your safety brief for the weekend is reach out to your battle buddies, reach out to your friends, check on them if you haven't talked to them in a while. Mental health, and if you have issues, it's okay not to be okay. Reach out, talk about it. And if you think you don't have anybody, you do. Shoot us an email, DM us if that means I got to jump on a call with you. I'm not a counselor or psychologist, but I got 2 ears and I listen pretty well still.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this month is definitely important for a lot of different people.
Yeah. It's great stuff. So hats off to all of them. And before I get into what we got coming up next weekend and some shout outs and whatnot, let's take a step back and let's learn a little bit about Mr. Ryan Williams Sr. Ryan, so why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Oh yeah, thank you again for having me on. I'm always a host, never a guest, right? So I'm loving this right now. I don't have to do any real major prep. It's great. But yeah, so my name is Ryan Williams Sr. I retired from the Air Force after 20 years and 6 days. Yeah, I counted the days. I love my career though. Last year, and that's when I met you when I was on terminal leave preparing for the transition.
Yeah.
I was told by a mutual friend of ours and one of my greatest mentors, Jeffrey Lodick, like you should attend this event. It's a free suit. They make sure it's tailored to you, and you can wear it on your interview. So amazing stuff. So that's where I met you and your crew. And I forget how it was brought up, but it was just in passing, right? I think everything happens for a reason. You mentioned that you did podcasts, and I was like, oh, I have a podcast. I've been doing it for a few years now. And then you gave me your card, and then boom, I've been on the platform since. So I greatly appreciate that. But yeah, so quick background. So I'm from Buffalo, New York. Been married for it'll be 21 years this upcoming November.
Nice.
To my beautiful wife, also from Buffalo, New York. We have 3 beautiful children. So my oldest daughter, she's graduating from high school this year. Actually, this week is her pinning ceremony for CNA.
Oh, wow.
So it's built into the curriculum. So she has her CNA and another certification where she can basically work in a clinical setting before she goes to nursing school at USF. So
wow.
that'll be this summer. So
That's awesome.
super excited. And then Junior will be a junior next year. He's also going the medical route. And then our youngest, he is going to be a 4th grader next year. That's why we sent him home with, or sent him to school with the present for his teacher. He's into coding, so he's taken after the nerd in me, right? But yeah, so podcast has been going on for about 4 years. It's based on my experience in the military. I was in IT for more than half of my career, so network switching, routing, things of that nature. Cyber transport was my AFSE. I guess to transcribe my MOS would have been like a November. That would have been one of those guys, like 25 November in the Army. With that being said, as I transition into cybersecurity here in Tampa, sunny Tampa, right? I was part of the Joint Communication Support element. So they taught me how to be a more broad communicator. So I learned not only how to switch and route better, but also satellite communications, radios, database management, virtualization, and then how to secure networks from our enemies, because China and Russia are very sophisticated, right? Iran, North Korea, so on and so forth. So we're preparing for contested comms in case anything ever went down, and that's why I jumped into cybersecurity, got my certifications, finished my master's in cybersecurity and information assurance, and then I started the podcast during the pandemic. Because I talked to my peers who were out of the military, and they said that, hey, the military is a melting pot, but when you come out here, it'll be a lot different. And when I started looking at the stats, only 9% of people of color were in cybersecurity, and only 3% were in those C-suite and senior level positions. I
Yeah.
said, I need to broaden my network. And while doing so, I was like, I'm talking to a lot of really good people, having really lot of really good interviews. So let me turn that into what we currently have, which is kind of a multimedia uh, variety show now, because we go every week. Monday and Tuesday are topics. Like this week, we talk about the new UK rules when it comes to Internet of Things devices, so IoT devices, so your thermostats, refrigerators, things that communicate with the internet, and
Yeah.
how the UK is better protecting against those things, and how that'll trickle down to us in the US as well, which is a great thing. And then we also talk about, it's always a breach every week. So I want to say we talked about the new National Mission Force by Cybercom. So they're going out and doing God's work when it comes to protecting our allies in the cyber environment. So as you can see, Russia and Ukraine, the war between Israel and Hamas, like there's a lot of cyber going on, and we're right there at the cutting edge. And then I forget what the Wednesday discussion is, because again, we talk about so much every week. But then Thursday, I do a show called Ask a CISSP, which is a certification that I hold, and it is a show where I interview those people who are either at the cutting edge, the pioneers in our field, or the ones that are trying to break in,
Yeah.
or somewhere in between, right? And the thing about Elizabeth Stevens, which went live this morning, I was a little bit late, my apologies, but she is a decorated Marine combat veteran helicopter pilot. She's the first of many with the Osprey, the V-22, and then she also now has a cyber uh, uh, company. So it's called DBS Cyber. So I go into, it's supposed to be 45-minute conversation, right? Because we try to keep our episodes short and palatable. So 15 minutes for each topic, 30-minute discussion, 45 minutes for the interview. We went an hour and a half. That's how detailed her background was. And then Fridays, everything else. So we call it the rundown, and we talk about movies, books, games. That's what's currently going on behind me, here in my living room fob, right? Where we're talking about probably the Kendrick Lamar and Drake diss tracks going back and forth, or we talk about movies like Hellboy, video games. We just like to unwind on Fridays.
I like how, since we're getting into the actual show, and the show's called The Other Side of the Firewall, and we'll get into it a little bit more deeper here when we get into the shows. But I'm really glad you brought that up, because it's something, like, I'm not an IT person at all. And in fact, I've learned so much of listening to your guys' show, and I'm just like, because I look at it. Obviously, I look at it because you being on the network and whatnot, and I could see the show notes and stuff like that. And I'm looking at it like, what the hell is he talking about? Like, I have no idea what any of this means. And then you start digging into it, and it's almost, I would think, as an outsider that isn't really familiar with IT or the cybersecurity stuff, and just how important is it for people to really start to understand what cybersecurity is and what it's doing, moving us into the future with, like, different AI softwares. You mentioned a minute ago about, like, thermostats, and how you can remote control your air
Yeah,
conditioning from your house and stuff like that. Like, those are all connectors and all things that people can hack into that stuff, and that's not, how are
yeah,
you big? And I think the average person doesn't necessarily um, think about how to protect those kind of things. I think, I don't want to say ignorant. I think people just don't know what they don't know. But I think
right.
this is one, the great thing about your show is that you're giving them that knowledge and that education of what to look for and how to better protect themselves against attacks and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It's a broadening attack surface, right? So part of it is regulation and legislation, even though we don't like, for that to have to be imposed on us.
Right.
But the other part is education, right? So we're hoping the two meet one another. But yeah, we're here to hopefully pass that knowledge along, so you don't get, somebody takes over your Ring doorbell or starts talking over your baby monitor and weird stuff like that, right?
Yeah,
Just protect
and
you.
we've seen examples of that happening. I mean, just recently, I saw something yesterday on the old interwebs uh, about a lawsuit against iRing or Amazon or whatnot with somebody hacked into a few hundred people's
Right.
iRings, their door cameras and their house cameras and whatnot. And I'm like, man, that's like it seems ridiculous to go old school and hardwire
Right.
everything because nobody wants to take the time. Believe me, I've hardwired my entire house in Arizona, and it took a long time
It does. And you have
to
to think
do
about the
it.
things you don't think about, right? Like,
Right,
it's like,
but
so
at
what
the
else is
same
connected
time, I
together?
was like, it was unhackable at the same time. You know what I mean? So I think that stuff's really interesting. So Ryan, I say that with I appreciate everything that you do, and I think
Thank
the
you.
knowledge that you guys put out is definitely um, needed, and I think that type of field you're going to see more and more of. The importance of it is just you started to see it probably half a decade ago, and it just seems to get more and more advanced. And we'll tie into that because I got some questions for you about
Yeah.
AI and stuff, but we'll talk about that when we get into the shows. Let's see, we're getting some comments here. Appreciate some Gabriel Wren. Gabe is a Marine Corps veteran. He is my videographer, and just more importantly, is a really good friend. And he's been trying to get me to do this Veterans in the Mist episode. I'm not even going to explain what that is because it's disturbing. But he's a Marine. What would you expect anything less?
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So, folks, we're going to be next weekend. Let's talk a little bit about where we're going to be next weekend. Next weekend, we're going to be out Armed Forces Day, May 18th, down at Ocotillo Reservoir with our friends Warriors on the Water Ltd. It's a nonprofit organization. It's their fundraiser. It's their fundraiser that they do every year from 8 to 4. It's their annual pig roast. Great time. A lot of fun. They bring out the National Guard. The Guard brings out a whole bunch of newer toys that they have. Lots of fishing, crafts, games. Our sister company, HMG Beverage, is going to be out there serving coffee to everybody that day. It's just a great time. So if you're in Maryland, Pennsylvania, Jersey, come on down. And it's a good time. Go to warriorsonthewater.com or Warriors Ltd on Facebook to check it out. Hope to see you guys there. Got to give a shout out to another organization, Gallant Few. They are doing their Patriot Challenge the entire month of May. Excuse me, their entire month of May. Patriot Challenge. You can go to gallantfew.org and check them out. It's a great. We've done stuff with them in the past, and I absolutely love that organization. So shout out to them. Tony, what's up, brother? Appreciate you. And then I'm doing something a little bit different. I want to give a shout out to the class of 2024. One, for making me feel freaking old. And so there's a couple of shout outs I want to do. I want high school grad down at Gilbert Christian, I believe. PJ Sigerstrom. PJ Sigerstrom, congratulations, young man. I'm very proud of you. I've known PJ since birth. His father's been one of my closest friends since the 4th grade. I've watched this young man grow. He's got a golf scholarship where he's going to be using his skills into college. So all the best to you, PJ, if you see this. Some college graduates, Trinity Noble, another friend of mine. Congratulations, little, or as I like to call her, Little T. Abby Bierland from our Warfighter Ranch, friends over at Warfighter Ranch, Ron, appreciate you guys over there. And Marion Fitzpatrick from Creighton University, who's getting ready to go to medical school. So all the best to you young adults, and best of luck on your next adventures. So shout out to 2024 class. Again, thank you for making me feel ancient. With that, Ryan, let's get into some of the news topics that I had found this week. Some interesting ones. First one was all 50 governors oppose Biden's plan to move the National Guard units. My understanding of this, when I read this, is that the administration wanted to move every single Guard unit to the Space Force. Wanted to make everybody Space Force Rangers. I couldn't
Make
help
them all
it.
guardians.
I saw this and I was like, I don't think that's going to be a good move. I just found it interesting. Being a Guard guy, I was in the Guard myself. I know there's a lot of people that watch the show that are in the Guard, both Army, Air Force. Have you guys? If anybody watches this, leave a comment on this. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. But each governor is opposed to that, and I think that there was my interpretation of the article. We got this one from AmericanFaith.com, or if you Google move National Guard units, you'll see a couple of different articles on it. But it was pretty interesting to see that the Department of Defense planned to move state National Guard units to the U.S. Space Force.
So I'm an airman, right? So
Yeah.
Air Force 20 years. The Space Force was stood up the last 2 years of my career, and then there was a big push to try to fill it, right? So I try to be as bipartisan as possible, especially on the podcast. I see it like being in it when it was being formed.
Yeah.
It goes across multiple administrations. There was a need for more focus on cyberspace and space in general.
Right.
As opposed to giving more money to the Air Force, they decided to make a new branch, and it's hard to fill a brand new branch quickly. So I think that this is what they're trying to do, is they're trying to solve a problem which would cause a different right. It's pushing it down. It's kicking the can down the road.
Right.
Like it's not all the branches are having recruitment issues right now because again, we're not like I joined during 2003, right? So 2001 spurred me that, hey, I want to go into the service. I did a year of college, and I was like,
you feel old, right?
I did a year of college, and I was like, now I gotta go. I gotta do it. Not just because of like patriotism's always in there, but also I need to get out of my city. I needed to pay for education. I needed a job.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can fulfill all these things by joining, right? That's not what's currently going on. So it's a little bit harder to get people in. And it's just like, if you make a new branch, like again, it goes across multiple, like at least 3 administrations about the Space Force. You have to have a plan to fill it. And now they're trying to rob Peter to pay Paul, unfortunately.
Right. They're pushing it. Some great comments. Kenneth, good morning to you. AJ, we need our governors to have their states fighting force available to hold back government tyranny. It's not that's not a wrong statement there. I see what you mean by that, AJ. I appreciate it. I look at it like this. Again, as a Guard guy, we had the Guard is called on by the state, works for the state, works for the governor of that particular state. So if there's a natural disaster, who are you going to send out emergency response teams to? There's been times where, down in Arizona, because that's where I was, the Guard got called up for state active duty for whatever mission it was. I remember one year there was, because it got so much snow. Arizona does get snow in northern Arizona. Yes, it does happen.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you.
Fort Huachuca, I went there. It's blazing hot.
It does happen. But then you look at Hurricane Katrina and back in those days, a lot of the Guard units were called up from multiple states to come help with that. So you have to look at that. Like, if you're taking away the National Guard from the states, you are definitely going to be creating a big problem. So it's pretty interesting. I love keep the comments coming, guys. Keep the comments coming. Rich, you're on point there. Annette, good morning to you. Ken says we get called up if the wind blows. Ken's a buddy of mine down in Arizona, and he's not wrong at that either. All right, so I just interesting. I thought, again, being a guard person coming from the guard, I thought it was interesting that this was even something that they were discussing. But Ryan, you make a good point. Like, you start a new branch of the military, and you didn't have a good plan in place to fill it. Now you're just like, okay, and that could lead off into a whole bunch of conspiracy theories that we will not get into today. But I'll just let your guys' imagination run free with that. That being said, moving on. What was the next one here? My screen froze.
Was it TSA? Was it that one?
Yeah, you got that?
So I don't have the article pulled up right now. So I have you blown up on my laptop. I'm actually getting old. Like I was staring at the screen. I was like, I can't see. So I had to go full screen. Like it's getting bad.
You start tilting your head back to look down so you can
Right.
read. Oh, here we go. No, Boy Scouts of America changed name for inclusive to be more inclusive, and I thought this was pretty interesting. Just the thought of changing their name to be more inclusive. They're according to a statement on X, and this was within the last week, their renaming reflects the organization's ongoing commitment to welcome every youth and family in America to experience the benefits of scouting. Not a bad thing. That's not a bad statement. I don't think. I think I've seen some of the comments under this when I looked at it on X or Twitter or whatever. People were like, well, you have Girl Scouts and you have Boy Scouts and you have this and you have that. And it's kind of like everybody, it seems like lately over the last several years, seems like everybody's kind of mixing everything, together. Bad thing, good thing.
So I can see the consolidation, right? So my daughter was a Girl Scout until we arrived to Florida. When we got here, the chapter that she was in had like three girls in it. So I could see like maybe there's a need to keep it going.
Yeah.
So that's why they've been consolidated. I'm sure there's a lot of people going to have different political views of it as well.
Right.
But when it comes to being a business, I don't know if they're profit or nonprofit. I can't remember.
Nonprofit, I believe
they're nonprofit. If they're trying to stay alive, so that's why they're trying to broaden.
I remember as a kid, I did Boy Scouts for like, I don't know, it was like 4 months. It wasn't for very long. But I do remember it was like 4 or 5 of us. But I grew up in a small town too. You know what I mean? So you try to get stuff like this. I get it, because to keep things afloat in some areas, you need to think outside the box to bring business in, to keep funding coming so you can do things for the kids. I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I just found it to be interesting. Boy Scouts of America changed their name. It's supposed to happen February of 2025 is when the name change will actually take place. And again, folks, when I bring this stuff to you every week, this is a disclaimer. Don't take my word for it. This is all stuff that you guys look up yourselves. These are just topics that I thought were interesting that I'm sharing to you guys. Next up, senators call for limits on TSA's facial recognition technology. I don't know if you guys travel a lot. I travel quite a bit. That's no secret. Last time I was at the airport, it was, you didn't even show your ID. It was just like, just stand here, and they do a face scan, and they just basically check your boarding pass, and then they shoot you through to walk through security and whatnot. And I'm seeing more and more of that in the different airports across the country. Not in all of them. It hasn't reached to some of the regional ones yet, but a lot of the bigger ones, Baltimore, Sky Hart, Phoenix, Dallas, and so on, are starting to do more and more facial recognition. Ryan, you being an IT guy, give me the pros and cons to this. Why is this important? And then why are the senators kind of asking the FAA to limit the TSA to the use of facial recognition?
So it's a double-edged sword, right? So we're trading in our privacy for convenience, and I'm not a conspiracy guy, and I've been used to having my image and face and all that stuff be out there for years now, right? Doing the podcast, but with the addition of AI, things are getting a little bit more nerve-wracking, right? So overseas, they've been doing this. So like I said, when I was part of the Joint Communication Support Element as an Army Airborne unit, I traveled all over Europe and Africa. And when I would go somewhere overseas, like I went to Israel. The last time I went was probably 2019, 2020. And I didn't even have to go through customs. Like it legitimately, like it scanned my passport, the camera flashed, and it was like, you're good. I was like, what? How long have you had my image?
So are we? So would you say? Now I've heard other IT and I've heard other, we'll say three-letter agency people say that America is like 10 years behind some of the technology like China and some of these other countries have when it comes to like facial recognition and stuff like that. Like China's already using facial recognition out in public with their cameras and stuff like that.
Right.
That's my understanding of it.
We
So are we behind the power curve on this?
Yes and no. So in my humble opinion, right? When it comes to our agencies and things of that nature, we're tip of the spear, bleeding edge. That's just not the patriotism in me. It's just like we're really good at what we do, and we've been doing it for decades now. When it comes to pushing that on our citizenship, we are, it's land of the free, home of the brave, right? So we're a little bit slower to doing that because it can be a invasion of your privacy. So in China, they like, okay, take it a step back. So in America right now, your picture's taken over 40 times a day. There's cameras everywhere, right?
Right.
Like whether it be a dash cam, ATM, a ring camera, your phone. Like we're walking, talking uh, data collection agents right now, right? So everybody's taking your image. Over in China, from some stuff I've read, uh, they are demoing social structures where your behavior and your image and likeness and things like that become currency. So if you're a good citizen, you have more access to things. You basically have like a rating, like you're like an Uber rating, but for a
Yeah.
person. And that's based upon all the data they're collecting on you, the images they're taking. They know what you're buying in shops and things of that nature. So I saw in one report, if you're a person who buys a lot of things that are high in fat or sodium and things of that nature, your social rating goes down because now you're a burden on society because we'll probably have to pay for your health care because you will be sicker than someone who takes better care of themselves and eats more properly. We don't want that here in the States. So there's that balance, right?
Right.
But that's the bigger overarching, like why we're so slow to get to a China, things of that nature, because it will become intrusive. And then with the inclusion of AI, like you don't want your likeness out there. You don't want people to be able to mimic you, voice and likeness, right? Like we've seen AI agents that are able to duplicate us.
Yeah.
All they need is a couple hours of footage or several minutes of your voice. So it's kind of like we don't want them to overstep, and it's good to see Congress push back. When it comes to us protecting ourselves, though, I do want to see it where potentially if a bad guy walks in the airport, it's flagged, right? It scans their image. It knows that this person shouldn't be here based upon different uh, images that's been taken of that person in the past. But then there's that balance, like how much privacy am I going to give up in order to stay safe? So I think that conversation needs to take place.
And that's funny that you say that. You see, you're talking about privacy, and I feel like we've kind of given up a lot of our privacy already once the smartphones came out. You mentioned like we're walking around with these smartphones and we're collecting data. Like I've seen, and I don't know if it's true or not. This is just something you see on social media, so it must be true, right? Uh, your camera will take pictures of you even though you're not touching it or whatnot. You got the Ring camera, and let's be honest, like I've used this analogy and I've used this example in the past where there's a movie. You being a movie guy, you'll appreciate this. 1989, Gene Hackman, Will Smith,
Oh,
Enemy of the
yeah,
State.
that's about enemy of state. Yeah.
And it's talking about how the national security and some of these three-letter agencies that like to silence us sometimes they could read your license plate as you're driving, or now they can hack into your phones and they can put certain things in your email and plant stuff and this and that, and everybody's like, oh, you're being a conspiracy, that will never happen, folks. It's been happening. Let's be real, like that stuff does happen on the daily, you know.
Well, I can't speak of the government piece of it, but bad guys are doing it all the time. Like you see it all the time.
Right.
If you're important enough, they will find a way into your device, unfortunately.
Right.
But we don't want that to obviously spread to the not to say we're not important, but just the regular person. Like, I don't want you to have the ability to know my location, track me, figure out my routine, things of that nature. And bigger companies have already done it and been caught for it. So I think the FCC sued T-Mobile,
Yeah,
AT&T,
yeah.
and a few other companies
And I
because
look
they're
at that.
selling our data.
That's a positive because you see the people, those companies being held accountable for it now, which is good. So like when people say, "Oh, it's it's against my privacy rights or whatnot," I see and I sympathize what you're saying, but at the same time, everything the technology has advanced so much, and everything that we're talking about right now is going to change tomorrow or in the next 6 months, and you've already seen like this AI has gotten to be just it's insane, and I'll get into that here in just a second. Joel, what do we have here? Pops on here. My pop's on, leaving a comment. Appreciate it. So anyway, yeah, TSA facial recognition technology. It's crazy, and I think you're going to see more of it. And good or bad. Leave a
Right.
comment. Let us know what you guys think about it.
It just needs balance. We need to talk about it. So basically, I'm trying to get at, like, figure out what we're trading in.
Yeah, educate people, and I hope when it comes to that stuff, like these big tech companies that are doing it, that they're transparent about it, and I keep bringing up the government because it's I like to cause trouble, I guess. I don't know, but Ryan made a good point, and don't laugh. Dude. Ryan made a good point. Like, there's bad guys out there that will go out and steal that technology and stuff like that too. So, all right, next up we have this one here is going to ruffle some feathers, I think. The controversy surrounding the anti-Semitism bill that's going on right now. The bill would codify the definition of anti-Semitism in response to unrest of the university campuses. We all know what's been going on the last several weeks around the campuses because the mainstream media has completely blown it up. Despite the overwhelming support for the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act in the House, where it passed recently last week, 320 to 91, the bill drew criticism from both sides of the aisle, with the Republicans saying it could outlaw Christian biblical teachings, and some of the Democrats saying it's going to infringe on free speech rights. So here's what I think about this. This is one of those things where, like, and not to sound like a smartass, but you actually have both sides of the aisle coming together and agreeing on something. So I kind of looked at this as even though it's the act and everything that this transpired from this has been negative, the fact that both aisles are coming together and saying, hey, this might not be a good idea because it's going to do certain things and take away certain things. I kind of feel like they're coming together and agreeing that this might not be a good idea.
So I think it's just again, it's the overarching, right? Like, hate speech should be something that we are against. This should be something that we're actively trying to defeat, right? Like, we don't want anybody to endure that or go through that. You just have to be careful of the second and third order effects. Like, the language in the bill has to be very specific, or else it can be used by others to overimpose. So
Right.
that's the fear, because you still have to have freedom of speech, but it's like, what kind of speech is that, and then who decides who
What's
decides
right.
what is
And that's
what's right
where
or
I
not.
think where do you draw that line? You know what I mean? And I think the big thing for a lot of Christians out there, me growing up, going to church and whatnot, is like, I've said this for a long time. I look at this as like, people think like, oh, we're getting into like a holy war, and with everything that's going on and with Israel and Hamas right now. If you think that's just started and that's something that's new, read a history book, because that's been going on for thousands of years.
Yeah, blew my mind. I took World History 1 and 2.
Yeah,
Western World History 1 and 2, and it went into Christianity, Judaism, Islam, uh, and the stuff that you don't learn in grade school, middle school, things of that nature, that you have to go to college or take a special class in high school to learn how all this stuff is structured, is kind of crazy.
yeah, yeah, and those are great classes to take if you want to really learn the history about you know the Bible and stuff like it. Here's the other thing: you read the Bible because it talks about it in there, as well. So, what do we have here? People's Patriot Project, Patriot Pride. Appreciate you guys jumping on. Yeah, no, it's certainly not just an issue now issue. It's it's one of those things, and again, I hate to say this, but it's like, would we see this if it wasn't an election year? I think that's a fair question to ask.
Yeah, a lot of legislation seems to get passed on this year, right? We talk about gas prices, we talk about inflation, we talk about new and old legislation. Like it's always on the election year. It's the busiest, but that's when everybody plays, right? It's like watching the World Cup. Like Americans get real into it when it's we're there, we're in the finals. Like, you can watch any of the games up to it.
Yeah.
That's when we're most engaged. So I think
what's soccer?
What? In the bar screaming USA, you're like, you don't even know who's on the team.
When did you start watching? About 2 days ago when they made it. Oh, what do we got here? Ken, tags off for helping. Yep, I agree. People's Patriot Project, love these guys. Know your history, be educated. Yeah, I mean that's just it. That's the thing. And I'm certainly not telling anybody whether you're one side or the other. Doesn't matter to me. I respect the fact, but at least go out, research this stuff that we've talked about today. The anti-Semitism bill. I think you're going to see a lot more of that being talked about between now and November. So let's get educated on it. And whether you're on the right side, there's no, I don't want to say there's necessarily a wrong side. I read this article and I looked at it as a positive. I was like, this might be the first time in a long time that you actually see both aisles coming together and agreeing on
that and TikTok. That's it.
Yeah. So you bring up TikTok. I want to go back to the AI stuff. Well, actually, let's do this quick. Our sister company, HMG Coffee or HMG Beverage, go to hmgbeverage.com, hmgcoffee.com. We got new roasts out right now for the month of May. You're going to get 10% off. Go to just use promo code HMG10 and you get 10% off at the checkout. I want to get in the shows because I want to get back into your show, particularly the other side of the firewall. And you just mentioned AI. And that slippery slope, you're right. It is. Again, guys, before we jump into the shows here, go check out some of the stuff that I was talking about. Research this stuff yourself. Let me know what you guys think. I appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. Kim loves the decaf. I know she does, Ken. I appreciate it, brother. AI, Ryan, what is going on with AI? What should people who aren't really familiar with AI, just let's say the average Joe is watching this or listening to this, what should people know about AI today?
So I would say that it's not a buzzword anymore. It's not just a passing phrase where it's like, oh, AI is going to do this, AI is going to do that. The implications are already there, right? If anything, I think everyone should at least understand a baseline of what it is, right? Start playing around with the free models, right? Get on ChatGPT and things of that nature, and just think of it as your I almost said her name, your personal assistant of whatever you call her, right? Or Google or Bing or whatever, but on steroids, at its lowest baseline. Like it can take what you're asking, understands your language of choice, and is able to then predict all of what should come after it, right? So like when you type into something your keypad, it says like the words that you think you may be saying next, like Google does that in their email, things of that nature. But it has a vast amount of information, so it can take it in any shape and form that you want to go, right? It's a large language model at its core, and that's at its worst. So in the future, it'll have implications in pretty much every workload that you could think of outside of physical labor, and even to include that probably. So if you're in anything administrative, if you're in anything where you have to input data into a database, or you are a person who has to retrieve that information for lessons learned, things of that nature. So like I'm a project manager at Heart, right? PMP. it can take all that information and it can make correlations, it can connect things, it can give you a better understanding of your information, better than any human can just sit there and read it. It can give
So
you an abstract of millions of things.
it's still pulling from something somewhere then.
Yes. So think of it like we always say, the cloud. The cloud is just somebody else's computer. So it's pulling from your Amazon. Is pulling from your Google. It's pulling from your Microsoft.
Okay, so let me ask you this then. Is it safe to say that since it's pulling from some other source, that other source was still set up by a human being?
Yes, it's a pull and push. So as you ask questions and as you do your research and as you put things in it, you're feeding the model.
Okay.
And then as you pull things out, it's based upon what everyone else fed to the model, as well as those bigger companies have been inputting millions and millions of data points in there to broaden it. Because what you'll learn is as you play around with it, if you keep continuously feed it the same information, you don't diversify the information you give it, the model will collapse. It'll start to give you the same old same things. But if you feed it a variety of things, it gets more creative.
Okay. All right. So is there going to be a time where AI is smarter than everybody else or smarter than human? Or is there a time where, it turns into like an iRobot thing where,
So I'm not fearful
Sure.
of Skynet just yet, right? So all it is information that we fed it. So that's what's so
So
and
it's just stuff that I don't want to say regurgitated, but it's stuff regurgitated,
it
but
is.
put in a smarter text.
It's clean. So it's data that's been taken and cleansed and put somewhere. And then there's implications of that as well, right? Garbage in, garbage out. So if
Right.
we feed it a bunch of bad data, that's all it's going to spit out. But at the end of the day, it's not necessarily thinking, it's processing. It's processing the information we gave it. It's not creating art just yet. It's copying aspects of that art and then reproducing it in very creative ways.
Right.
But
Okay.
at the end of the day, it's still human information that has been given.
And see, I was very anti AI when it first started out, but that's like because I don't like change and I'm I'm
As
an
most of us.
but it's like now that I've tested Chat GPT, I've tested some other AI software programs and whatnot. I see, and I look at it like this: it's the new shiny object, where it's like too much of something is going to be a bad thing for you, right? I see that AI has some AI has a part, especially in the business
Right.
world,
Some good use cases.
right? It's some really good tools that make it convenient for people to use in a positive. I see a lot of positive to it, but with every positive, you have to have a negative,
Right.
and that's it. So it's the same thing. I think people tend to get a little, and this is why I'm bringing it up today with this AI stuff. Is people look at you've heard Elon Musk say, no, AI is so this and that, and it's dangerous. It can be if it's put in the hands of the wrong people that want to do bad things. But
Right.
that doesn't, whether it's AI or something else, bad people are going to do bad things regardless of what kind of tool or whatever else that's
Right.
available to
Right,
them.
exactly. And so you just jogged my memory. So Wednesday's episode, our topic of discussion was that ChatGPT is able to read vulnerability reports and then able to exploit them because it's getting more efficient at what it's doing, and other language models were not as capable. So I think it was like 87%, which is very high. So you
Yeah.
can feed it. We call them CVEs. So it's like, hey, this vulnerability exists. Here's what it is, and it's able to then exploit it. And that was discovered by a research firm, and they warned everyone of this potential vulnerability or exploit. So it does have some dangerous implications, but for every, like you said, for every good there's a bad. For every bad there's a good. So if it can read a report and then attack it, it can also defend against it. So we have to learn how to harness that power.
I love it. I love it. We got a comment over on our Instagram. I'm cool with the change. Sustainable. How does it? Not trying to be negative, but how does it would like to know the positive and negative aspects of AI. Is that what you're asking? You know. So that's.
I
I
would say,
mean,
yeah.
go
I would
ahead.
say efficiency. So like in my career, right? So I'm a GRC guy in cybersecurity. So that's governance, risk, and compliance. So I read a lot on a daily basis. That's why the show has material that's always pretty timely. Because I
Yeah.
have to read about what vulnerabilities out there and how they're going to be exploited, and then how can I then help companies build policy and governance to protect themselves.
Right.
With this tool, it'll make me able to do it much faster. So it's that piece. And then in the future, once we get a hold of it, like really harness it, it'll be able to help defend us better against nation states and things of that nature that are attacking us on a daily basis. They're in our systems, and human beings can find these things, but it takes a little bit longer. Then AI will be able to find it much quicker.
Like with the snap. I love that. Or a
Mhm.
press of a button, I should say. Good stuff. Other side of the firewall. You guys do a show Monday
Every
through
day.
Friday, every
Yep.
day, Monday through Friday. What can they expect today? Let's talk about the show. What on the episode today?
So today you get two shows. I was a little bit slow on the Thursday show. Just I had a lot of work, and you're going to get Thursday's episode of Ask a CISSP, which is actually playing behind me, ironically, with Elizabeth Stevens. So she is a retired Marine aviator, right? First of many things, graduating the Naval Academy, flying combat helicopters in Iraq. Like this is an amazing story that I go into all these things blind, and it's my first interview. I don't want to know much about you. I want to experience it like the audience member would experience it. And this 45-minute conversation turned to an hour and a half because I didn't know about all of her rich background, right?
Right.
And on top of the cyber, and then you'll also get the Friday episode, the weekly rundown, and that's where we talk about nonsense, right? Movies, books, games. I think this week we talk about the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef that's going back and forth. Last week we talked about the movie Civil War, and I'm iffy on it. But you get to get those hot takes right on Fridays. But so Monday topic, Tuesday a topic, Wednesday a discussion about a cybersecurity related topic, Thursdays interview on Ask a CISSP, and then Fridays everything else. That's our rundown.
I love it. I love it. Follow up from the question that was asked when I asked, we were talking about this says the fold. How does it look if people don't take it seriously? If the quality data matters, then what happens when the data quality isn't very good? What happens? Can it be retrained?
Yes. Yeah.
Good
So
question, by the way. Good
yeah,
question.
that's a very good question. Yes, it can be retrained, and because it is such like I said, there's millions of computers processing this data. Like people are always inputting things. There are people who are trained, like data analysts, to go through the specific information, like not what you're searching on ChatGPT per se, but research papers and things of that nature, books, literature. Like there's a lot that goes into these models to make them baselined before they give it to us, the public, to then iterate on top of. So it can be retrained, and I'm not so fearful of it being bad information. What I'm fearful of is people not taking it seriously. People need to have that responsibility. Like when you're putting stuff in here, right? When you're asking those questions, you need to vet it, just like you do the news articles that you said, like because ChatGPT will hallucinate.
You mean
It's
it lied to me?
yeah, so you have to go in and you have to double check its work, right? Like you can't say, "Hey, write me a book, write me a paper." You're always gonna need a human being there to
Right.
discern, like, is this good information? Does this
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
Like, have I checked multiple sources, just like you would do if you wrote a paper?
I love that. That's such a good point too. It's like, yeah, I put this in. Well, Chat GPT told me this.
Yeah, like,
So it must be true.
no,
That's
that's not
no,
true at all.
like saying, "I saw that on Dr. Phil, so it must be true." That's I don't even know if he's on anymore. Anyway, yeah, you're welcome. Glad we were able to answer that for you. Great question, by the way. Annette, I totally agree with that. Peter, all about data input. Yes. All right, let's get into the shows. We are almost an hour into this, and we just getting started with the shows. Ryan, do you have time to stay with us on the shows? I know you are working, but if you got to go, I understand that. But can you stick around for some of the episodes? If not,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I didn't mention it. So I'd shout out to my company, not trying to do any
no,
sponsorship or
promote
anything
him.
like that.
Give him, come on.
So
Do it.
I work for a company called Buttlebot, and they allowed me to be flexible this week so I can make up this time. And before this happened, so Buttlebot is the name of the company, BUDDOBOT, like Buddy, Butto, bot, built the breach. So amazing company. I love the people there. They're doing amazing work, and I am on the federal contract side. So I'm doing work for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So that's my specific piece.
Nice. Well, we appreciate you taking time, and shout out to your company and your manager for allowing you guys to allowing you to come on the show today with us. We got a new show on the network, and I'll make that announcement next week. I know everybody's
I like it. I like it.
Next week. A-hole. Like, well, we do have another one of our newer shows, seniorlivingguide.com. Some of you guys crack jokes about that, but this because I might be getting closer to that age where I need to look into some of this stuff. So seniorlivingguide.com, great organization. First off, this week's episode talked about suicide prevention and how it's such a crucial issue across all ages. But today they really focus on the demographic that often goes unnoticed, which is our seniors. And I didn't realize this, but there's quite a high suicide rate among seniors. This week's guest, Leslie Rearich, she's a seasoned speaker in mental health and suicide prevention. And this topic she really talked about, or today they explored the alarming trend of rising suicide rates among seniors. They discussed transformative power of personal connections and address the role of technology in fostering these crucial human interactions. One of the things that was said in this, and it really took me by surprise, I was almost offended at first, was they said they started the seniors, when they said seniors, and the suicide rate was from the age 45 and on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I was
45.
What's going on? Like, what?
Yeah.
But all joking aside, it's not a joking matter. This is a serious topic. And again, why I said part of your safety brief, everybody, this week is reach out to your battle buddies this weekend. So great episode this week. Learned a lot from it. It's called seniorlivingguide.com. Check it out. Next up, and let me see, they're on here now, the People's Patriot Project. They do We Got Your 6 at 6 every Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. This past Sunday, they had Melvin Gatewood on to talk about his Operation Continue mission. And they also had Mr. John Hensley, who shared some of his amazing songs on there. People's Patriot Project, nonprofit organization. We Got Your 6 at 6 is just one of the shows that they do. They do 3 shows, I believe. And Andrea or Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. They have a WP3 radio that they do, where they highlight veteran and first responder musicians all over the country. It's pretty cool. And then they do kind of a weekly wrap up or a weekly debrief on Monday nights, and you can catch them live on their Facebook page, the People's Patriot Project. Go check it out. Great show. Next up, we got the Decision Hour with yours truly. Yeah, I'm on a roll these last couple of weeks. Am I right? All right. Revolutionizing America was the topic this week, unveiling the power of sustainable development and quantum supremacy. I met a gentleman back in February down in DC. He's an author, and he's done a couple of documentaries, but his name is Hugo. And we talk about the current media censorship and the government misrepresentation of things. And this is immediately, I say that, and I know some people are like, oh, here we go, conspiracy theory. This man is very much pro-government in regards to, he believes that the government is good. There's just a lot of bad seeds that need to be replaced. And let me put that out there. And I agree with that comment. But it's an eye-opening discussion devoted to conventional boundaries, where we explore potential crises such as climate emergencies and mind-bending concept of quantum supremacy. look up quantum supremacy, because he said it like 3 times, and it wasn't until after the show that I had to Google it to figure out what exactly he was.
It's
He,
fascinating.
yeah, it was. I'm just like, I was like this the entire time reading about it. It's so interesting, but there's more. He didn't shy away from addressing the pressing international matters, including China's ambitious Belt to Road initiative. Look that up. And the shifts of global power and dynamics projected for 2040. And we're talking about stuff that you see with the World Economic Forum and the different agendas that some of these other organizations around the globe have. Look that stuff up. China's Belt to Road initiative, I think a lot of you will find that quite interesting as well. That is this week's Decision Hour. Go check it out. What else is here next? The Shay Sparks Show, new season coming next month in June, so stand by for that. Misfit Nation, get ready to energize your mind, body, and spirit. They welcome back Miss Miller. She's a seasoned speaker specializing in helping audience break through limiting mindsets, identifying what truly holds them back, and reclaim control over their lives. She's got a background in both dance and engineering, and she offers a unique perspective on life, love, and health. There's another great episode, Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation, they do 3 shows a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I believe, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. I'm probably saying that wrong. Rich, I apologize, but it does several shows a week, and you can catch them on their Facebook. They do lives on Misfit Nation podcast. Check it out. Next up, we got the Homefront Sit Rep podcast. This is one of the newer shows on the network. They've been on for about a month now, and I really enjoy this stuff. They do 2 shows a week, Sunday night and Monday nights, and you can catch them actually on the HMG Facebook page as well. For their lives. This week, Monica Stanford, DNP AG-ACNP. She's a doctor of nursing practice and acute care nurse practitioner. That is a mouthful.
Oh, wow. Yeah, thank you. I was like, what?
Community hero. That's what you should just put community hero. Let's be honest. Community hero. Because you got the alphabet after your name. Smart lady. She's got a specialty practice in cardiology and hospital services. She graduated from Johns Hopkins University with a bachelor's, Georgetown University with a master's, and Vanderbilt University with her doctor of nursing practice. She's active in the local state and federal legislative affairs and advocating for nurse practitioners' practice, cardiology issues, and veteran affairs, increasing access care to all. So this was a pretty interesting episode. Absolutely learned a lot from it. It's called Homefront Sit Rep Podcast. We got a couple more. Stay with us, folks. Joel Evan, another community hero, former law enforcement officer. Great dude if you ever get the chance to meet him. This week, he speaks with Dr. Mario Torres Leon, founder of Alive Partner, where they discuss how after years of self-development and searching, he was able to rekindle his intimacy and his aliveness with his partner. Mario shares how men don't have the language to communicate with women. I'm just going to stop right there and let that marinate for a minute. I know there's a bunch of women right now that are celebrating. They're like, of course, finally, they get it. No, in all seriousness, he shares that men don't have the language to communicate with women, which is a huge core barrier to establishing intimacy. Becoming untriggered or being present and fully engaged with one's emotions is a key aspect to this process. Very interesting episode that went out yesterday. Go check it out. It's called The Joel Evans Show. Folks, reminder real quick, you can find all these shows. Simply go to heroesmediagroup.com. Some of the shows are on their YouTube channels and whatnot, but if you go to heroesmediagroup.com, you click on the show page, it'll give a list of all of their social platforms. You can follow them on the different social platforms and whatnot. So just want to throw that out there real quick. What do we have next? The Hero Academy with our host, Super Dave. Dave is one of our community heroes over in New Jersey. This week, From Tragedy to Triumph, the Will and Andy Tablet Command story. Andy and Will share their journey of innovation, their entrepreneurial spirits, and their dedication of enhancing firefighter accountability and incident management. This was really cool. In this episode, you gain insights into the Tablet Command's development, invaluable lessons on leadership and the transformative power of the technology. You get a fresh perspective on some heroism and an inside look on their solution that empowers our community firefighters. Great episode this week. It's called the Hero Academy. I'm seeing a bunch of comments coming in over on Instagram. I'll get to those, I promise. Just let me get through these shows here first, and we'll come back to the comments, guys. Thank you, though. Keep them coming. Next up, Beyond the Rut with our man Jerry, another Army veteran. This week, the art of balancing entrepreneurship and parenting with a special guest, Jason Galensky. This one really hit home for me. The fascinating world of entrepreneurship and parenting. With a family of 10 children, Jason brings a wealth. 10 children. Yeah. 10 children. Jason brings a wealth brings a wealth of experience as both an entrepreneur and a dedicated father.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, that is unbelievable. Wow. Discover how Jason's journey through homeschooling his children allowed him to be a present dad, and also provide unique opportunities to instill valuable business skills in his kids. Amazing. I thought this was a really cool episode. I resonate a little bit. Being a single parent myself, I didn't get the opportunity to homeschool. I have no business homeschooling. I'm the last person that should be homeschooling anybody. And if my pop is watching this still, I'm sure he'll leave some smart comment here soon. And we look forward to that. But yeah, it's one of those things. To have 10 kids and being present and then being able to homeschool, I think that's just an absolute awesome job as a fellow father. Ryan, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I couldn't imagine having 7 more kids. Like, I love my kids. They are amazing. 7 more of them? 10 children? Like, if anything, I need to listen to that. Just learn patience.
Yeah. That's a basketball team. You got constant rotation, You got starting 5, throw the next 5 in. Wow. Yeah, Beyond the Rut. Great episode this week. Check that out. A few more here. Next up, we got Label Free Podcast with our friend Deanna. Such a great woman. Love her to death. This week, Mastering the Art of Luxury Travel on a Beer Budget. Let that sink in. Everybody grab a pen and a piece of paper. You're about to learn some stuff today. And I'm not even going to try to attempt the guest name because I'll butcher it. But the guest is the founder of 1% Travel Club. Rohith, that's what it is. Rohith shares his passion for travel, his mission to make unforgettable travel experiences accessible to everyone. He discusses his childhood fascination with travel and how he learned to maximize travel experiences on a budget through points and miles. This is where I really got into this. He explains how he was able to travel in Europe for 2 months just off of $2,000, utilizing creative strategies like vouchers, finding cheaper flight routes, and avoiding unnecessary fees. He emphasizes the importance of having a travel strategy and shares insights on the 5 pillars of travel mastery, including cutting costs, earning rewards, avoiding fees, and seeking compensation to maximize all your experiences. I'm telling you, if you guys travel or you want to travel and you want to do it at being very cost effective, you need to listen to this episode, Label Free Podcast. Check it out. Next up, we got Because Bikers Matter podcast. This week, host David Vegas Schumann interviews Don Buss, a motorcycle enthusiast with a long history in the industry. Don shares his journey from being enamored with mini bikes as in his youth to working in the motorcycle industry, including his time as a Parts Unlimited rep and later selling motorcycles at Woodstock Harley Davidson. Pretty cool. The conversation switches over to Don's involvement in the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride. It's a global event aimed to raising awareness for men's prostate cancer and mental health. Both very important.
Yeah, definitely.
Don provides details about the event happening on May 19th. This Distinguished Gentleman's Ride is happening May 19th. It's just around the corner, folks. And he talks about how you guys can participate or support this event. And I think, as you know, they say at the ripe age of 45, gentlemen, as you guys get a little bit older, when you hit 45, that's kind of the age where you really got to start looking at your health a lot more seriously. Prostate cancer is no joke. A good friend of mine had it, still around, thank God. But it's no joke. So check this out. This was a very eye-opening. Next up, we got environmentally speaking. This week, understanding PFAS, the latest environmental hazard on the EPA's radar. This show is based out of Rhode Island, Massachusetts area, but this particular topic could really hit anybody and everybody. So this one here, they talk about the Superfund sites and the groundbreaking new announcement from the EPA concerning substances known as PFAS. They're also called like forever chemicals, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. Now it's listed under the CERCLA, which is a Superfund statute, and the far-reaching efforts of this on environmental safety, public health, and property ownership. This was a really big thing because in this episode, they talked about, like, you buy a piece of property and somebody comes in and takes like a dirt sample or whatnot, and they find something there that you didn't know was there. You're responsible for it. The person that sold you the house was responsible for it. They go down like the history of that property, and everybody that was ever tied to that property, they're trying to pass a bill that says that they could be liable for whatever they found in the dirt there. Pretty interesting episode. I learned a lot from this, from environmental side of things. So check it out, environmentally speaking. Three more, excuse me. Next up, we have the MSEC podcast, Military Child Education Coalition, one of the great nonprofits in the military community. If you are a veteran, active duty, guard, or reserve, and you have children that are of age that are still in school, this is an organization you definitely want to follow. They have a slew of resources for you. This week's episode, they have Rochelle and McKenna discuss the often challenging world of mental health within military families, from navigating the complexities of PTSD to fostering open communication and understanding. They share invaluable insights and personal experiences that can relate to anybody, really. So this was such a great episode, and I love how they bring in, and this organization focuses on military child. Ryan, you and I are vets. We understand that there's a lot of resources for us as veterans.
Absolutely.
Spouses, there's a lot of resources and stuff for spouses that are out there. I think oftentimes people forget that children are involved, and they tend to forget, like, oh, they're kids, they're getting these experience, blah blah blah. But what effect is that having on the children and whatnot? You being a military guy yourself, 20 plus years, you got 3 kids. Let me ask you this: what were your kids? How did they feel about you being in the military, and then what was it like as you were retiring and transitioning out?
So all 3 were different. Obviously, my daughter, she just turned 18. She was used to the travel, and we noticed it's funny now, but she had an issue when we left Alaska to move to Virginia because of the day-night cycle.
Yeah.
So like she had a couple weeks where she was just like, what is going on? Like
Yeah.
she's like 4 or 5 and she's trying to explain to us, articulate like where did the sun go? Like what is happening right now? So that was the first time we noticed like, oh yeah, we travel messes kids up. And then Junior, he actually enjoyed the travel. So he loved every time we PCS and things of that nature. And then the youngest, he was able to have a normal childhood because we got stationed here
Yeah.
in Florida, and just to see the different, like he doesn't want to go anywhere, right? He has friends, he's established. But like the middle child was like, hey, when are we leaving again? When am I going to go see something new? So different dynamics, right? But at every place that we went, we always looked for resources and made sure we found clubs and things of that nature where the kids can interact with each other because they're all going through the same experience.
Right.
So
That's
yeah,
cool.
definitely use your resources.
I love that. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. That's the good stuff. Yeah, and this is such a fun organization. I love working with these folks. It's called the MSEC Podcast. Check it out. Two more folks. The Arms Room, the OG show of HMG. They've been with us since before day one, quite frankly. This week they're doing part 5 of their IFAC lifesaver presentation. If you have not done any type of training, whether it's a medical or firearms training, get a hold of the Arms Room. They travel. They're in, I think, 20 states or more now. They do come out to you if you're not in there. They're based in Arizona, or that gives you an excuse to go to Arizona for one of their classes. Best class I've ever taken. And I love the way Glenn's been a friend for a long time. He's the way he explains and teaches. He doesn't do anything basic. It's like if the state says, all right, to get your permit in this, it needs 3 hours, he'll do 8 hours. He'll do 3 hours of 4 hours of block instruction in a classroom to teach you why you are doing X, Y, and Z and what to think about. And then he takes you out to the range. I've not done an IFAC class yet. It's something on my radar. I've heard nothing but good things. I've known these guys for a long time. I trust anytime I have a question when it comes to go bags, firearm stuff, or like what's the best tourniquet to carry, or whatnot. These are the people that I'm calling. Glenn has done a phenomenal job with this. So go check it out. The Arms Room Show. Absolutely love it. Last, certainly not least, we got Chasing Happiness podcast. Another great episode this week. They're talking about the entrepreneurship with special guest John Davies. He's the mastermind behind the groundbreaking God-given genius, or G3 method. John shares his personal journey on how he pivoted from a conventional career to uncovering the secrets and aligning your business with your initiate talent, your God-given, your talents, right? You'll discover how to identify your God-given talents using insightful assessments and tools like the Clifton Strengths, and then gaining invaluable clarity on your entrepreneurial path. Great episode. You're going to learn a lot from this, especially if you've ever teetered or like, I feel like I want to do this or I want to make a change, but I'm not really sure how. This gives you a blueprint to that. Check it out. It's called Chasing Happiness. Shout out to our sponsors. Jim Neary's Bait and Tackle, Warriors on the Water Ltd. I mentioned it earlier. We're going to be out there next weekend, Warriors on the Water Ltd. Sisu Stamina and the Universal Learning Approach. I love their vitamins that they have. Is absolutely amazing. The Freedom People, Home Studio Mastery. Help me out with the home studio here with the camera and the setups and lights and stuff like that. The guy's a genius. Absolutely love it. Motorcycle Safety Lawyers. Go check them out. Especially if you ride, those guys need to be on your speed dial. Forget genetics. If you're an outdoors guy like I am, all you hunters out there, this is the stuff you want in your woods. Go check it out. Forget genetics. And if you use promo code HMG, he's going to give you 10% off at checkout. My tax fella, tax season's over. But if you have a small business, or maybe you haven't filed your taxes yet, get it done. Get them done right by the professionals. Go to mytaxfella.com. Check it out. JB Auto Clothiers. Some of us are familiar with them. They sported the jacket today. What? Yeah. Love it. Veteran owned, made right here in the good old US of A. And then last, certainly not least, our sister company, HMG Beverage. Go to hmgbeverage.com, get your coffee fix. We are doing monthly subscriptions again now, so sign up there and we'll get the coffee to you. You'll never go out of good coffee. So that being said, Ryan, thank you so much, man, for spending this morning with me, man.
My pleasure.
I appreciate it, brother.
Yeah, definitely. You're a class act, so I greatly appreciate it. I'm glad that we ran into each other at the suit event, and I've learned a lot. Like I've never done a live event before, so I'm gonna process this and maybe one day do it. I'm a control freak, so I've done nothing live. But I've is invaluable information, and thank you for promoting the podcast,
Absolutely.
like you do every week.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you being a part of the family, brother. We really do. I value you and your friendship. So thank you again for joining us today, folks. That's it. That's all the time we got. Make sure you reach out to your battle buddies this weekend. Get off the computers. Put the cell phone away for an hour. I challenge everybody to put the cell phone down for at least an hour and get outside, walk around, get out in nature. And remember, if you see something on the internet or you see something that starts bringing your blood pressure up, put it aside and research the stuff. Remember, critical thinking is a lost art. Think for yourself. Don't believe everything you see or read. All right. That being said, that's all, folks. That's it. Have a great weekend. God bless you. God bless America. Ryan, thanks again. We'll see you guys next week.